Good morning, students. Hello and welcome to Avyan IAS Academy. Today we'll be taking up one more part from our basic grammar, which is direct and indirect speech. So in this speech, we'll get to understand how a direct speech is changed into either an indirect speech, or also this is known as a reported speech. Let us first know why it's known as a reported speech. Because, for example, there are three speakers, A, B and C. When A says something to B, that comes in the direct speech. But when B is repeating the same thing to C, it becomes the indirect speech. And when we are trying to change a sentence from direct to indirect speech, we have to do it in a way so that it establishes the relationship between B speaking to C. It should not seem like A has been speaking to C. For example, if the sentence is Ram said, comma, I am very busy now, which means this is a sentence in the direct speech. It is saying that Ram said he is very busy now. So, for example, Ram was in position A and he has told a person B that he is very busy. But now B wants to go and report the same thing to C. So, how will we say that? So, we'll say Rama said that he was very busy then. So there are a number of changes that we have done from the direct to the indirect speech. This was a sentence in the direct speech which has changed into indirect speech. And now we have replaced, so there are a number of changes which we'll discuss now. So now this sentence no longer looks like A is being speaking to B. This sentence look likes that B is now reporting this to C. That's why it is known as a reported speech or indirect speech. Indirect speech, the indirect speech, because we are taking away the quotation marks, because Ram is no longer speaking directly to the last or the third person. There is an intermediary B who reports that to C. In a direct and indirect speech, there is always an intermediary who is speaking in between. So as you can see that Ram said, I am very busy now. The changes that has happened are, first we have taken away the comma and the quotation marks in the indirect speech. Second is, when we are saying that Ram said, that remains same, and we have introduced a conjunction, which is that. Usually the conjunction that is used is that, from when we change from direct to indirect. So that is creating a link between the B and the C. The next is I has changed here to he. It can change to a number of things. It can change to I, it can change to he, she, you, whatever, depending on the person. And then here we have also seen that the present tense has changed to the past tense, am has changed to the was, and now has changed to then. So these are the certain changes we have made this in this sentence in order to make the idea clear that Ram said that he was very busy then. When Ram said that he was busy, and now it is being reported to someone that at a certain point of time Ram had stated that he was busy. Hence it changes from now to then. So this is a complete transformation of sentence from a direct to indirect speech. In similar manner, we'll see a few more examples where we'll see how we are changing sentences from direct to indirect speech. For example, if we say, class, be quiet. Here with this exclamation mark that is here, it is like the teacher is kind of ordering the student. So the better way of transforming this sentence would be, the teacher ordered the class to be quiet. So again we can see that the comma and the inverted comma has been removed in this sentence. Said has changed into ordered because here there was an exclamation mark, and it is usually that a teacher is asking, or the teacher is usually commanding the class to do something. Hence, when we cannot think of a proper word, whether it should be ordered, exclaimed, or requested, since we don't know the tone in which the teacher spoke, the best way to avoid any sort of confusion is we can just say the teacher told. It could also have been requested, since we don't know the tone of the teacher, but generally we can take, if it is coming from a superior to the inferiors, so we can call it like from the superiors to the subordinates, not inferior actually. So we can call that, say that the teacher ordered the class to be quiet, right? So here the teacher said something to the students, and now this is being reported to another person. Hence, this sentence changes from the direct to the indirect speech. So now we'll look at the few other rules which we need to keep in mind while we are changing a sentence from direct to indirect. Those rules would be as follows. Okay, so now as the few rules that we have to observe are, all the presents would change into the past. So the simple present tense would change into simple past tense. For example, if there is a sentence, she said, I eat rice. This sentence would change as, she said that she ate rice. So this eat would change into ate. The said remain as the same, and we would be putting a conjunction that. In the similar way, if there is a sentence in present continuous which says, she said I am playing now, the sentence in the indirect speech would change as, she said that she was playing then. If there is a sentence in the present perfect tense which says, I have passed the examination, in the past perfect it would change as, she said that she had passed the examination. The has or the have would change into had. The ing is plus the ing form would change into was plus the ing form, and for the simple present the root verb would change from present to past. Here it is just changing the root verbs. Here it is the ing remains the same. It's just the change of the be verb from is to was or am to was, and in the perfect it would be has or have to had. The next comes the will and the shall of the future tense. If a sentence says that she said I shall go there, in the indirect tense, indirect speech, it would become as, she said that she would go there. For example, she said I will or I shall go there. I shall go there. The sentence would come as, she said that she should go there. The shall has changed into the should. The will, if it was he will, it would have changed into he would. So that is the changes that we are making in the direct and the indirect speech for shall and will, changing into should and would. The next comes when there is a sentence which is in the universal truth. Universal truths are facts which generally don't change. For example, when we say sentences like, the teacher said, the teacher says, the sun rises in the east. So this is a fact which will not change, right? It will suddenly not become the west. So the indirect speech stands as, the teacher said that the sun rises in the east. Mind it that there is no change in the tense of the verb. The rises remains as the rises. The only change that we are making in this sentence from direct to indirect when the sentence is of universal truth is, we are replacing the comma in the sentences we are not putting anything here, and we are also not putting the inverted commas. So that is the only change that is happening in the sentences of the general truths. Or it could also happen when a fact is true and still stands true. Though it's not a universal truth, but the fact is that it still remains the same. For example, if there is a sentence which says, Gopi said, I know her address. And this, for the fact remains that the person Gopi still knows another person's address. So it changes as Gopi said that he knew her address. This, you can put a knew her address, which is changing it into the past. However, if the fact still stands true and the person still knows the address, depending on whether the fact is still true, this might just not become new and can remain as no, not new. It only becomes new if the fact is no longer true then, and that it was talking of a past when the address was known to Gopi, but Gopi no longer knows the address now. So Gopi is saying that he knew her address, but now when it is like Gopi says that he knows her address, right? So it comes in the third person. Gopi said that he knows her address if the fact still remains true. So we have to be very careful about what the sentence is trying to imply in the direct speech, so that we can do a proper conversion into indirect speech. Now there are a few more things which we need to keep in mind while changing between direct and indirect. They would be the changes, for example, the changes would be like, so here are the few more changes which we need to keep in mind while changing from direct to indirect. Any sentence in the direct which has these words like now will change into indirect for then. For example, come here now, it becomes come. He asked me to come here then. A here becomes a there. Like he said I should be here, it would change as he said that he should be there. For a sentence with this will change into that. For example, this is what I wanted, that would change as that is what I wanted. If there is ago, we are talking about a time that's like long ago, it would change as long before. Tomorrow would become the next day. For example, the teacher said that she would explain us the sum tomorrow. The teacher said that she would explain us the sum the next day. Yesterday, she said I went there yesterday. When it changes to indirect speech, it becomes as she said that she went there the day before. Thus would become so. She said hence it is thus forwarded. So this would change as hence it is so forwarded. Last night would change as night before. The last would change to before. Actually, yesterday's is the last day, that could also change to before. So these are the few changes in the direct and indirect speech about we have to be really careful. Also now when we for example, if we are not talking about statements and we are talking about question marks or exclamations, how would we change that? In the questions, it would change as, for example, he asked, where do you live? It would change as, he inquired or asked me, where did I live? So this asked changes into inquired, or you can keep it as asked also. You can change it as inquired also. For example, if there's something like he said, will you listen to me? If it is in the tone of a request, it changes as he requested me if I would please listen to him. For example, for requests in a tone where there is a request, this changes with the sentence as please. Where there is anger, the sentence could change as ordered. For example, the teacher said, get out. This is an angry word from a teacher. So the sentence in the indirect speech would change as the teacher said the student to get out, or the teacher ordered the student to get out, or the teacher ordered getting out. For example, if there is a request, you are asking someone, would you please do this for me, even if the sentence does not explain that. Like for example, it says, will you come with me? She asked, will you come with me? So you can say, she requested if I would come with her, or she inquired if I would come with her. If there is a question mark at the end of the sentence, you can put an inquired or asked. If there is an exclamation mark at the end, you can say exclaimed or ordered, or if it is in a sense of requesting somebody, you can also put it as a please. So these are the few things which we talked about today in the direct and indirect speech. It is quite, I mean, it wouldn't be very difficult doing it if you start changing the sentences word by word, by keeping in mind the necessary changes which happens from the direct and the indirect speech. So we'll quickly revise what we did today. We learned that changing from a direct to indirect speech is showing the relationship between three. It's like, for example, is between A and B and C. When A says something to B is a direct speech, and when B reports that to C, it becomes the indirect speech. There are a few rules which we must observe, like taking away the comma and the inverted comma when it changes from direct to indirect. We also have to be careful about the tenses. All the past present tenses in all the four forms of the present would change into all the four forms of the past. So, and in the will and the shall of the future tense will change into would and should. And at the end, we talked about how we can change the question marks, the enquiries, the requests by using words like inquired, ordered, asked, requested, politely requested, and all these words. So that would be all for today. Thank you and have a great day.